Yo, yo, GM, everybody. Welcome back to yet another episode of Phase Live. Very, very exciting episode today as we've got Maddie Tay from Colosseum joining us. First time having Matt on the show and actually first time meeting Matt. And yeah, I've got my awesome co-host Goddard joining today as well. But yeah, how are you doing, Matt? What's happening? Oh, your mic seems to be off completely, Matt. No, can't share anything. I think you might be muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Oh,
there we
that's
go.
even better than backstage. That's
That is
clear.
better. Yeah.
That's
I think you're using the correct microphone now.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, no, happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on the show. And yeah, excited to chat about Frontier Hackathon and whatever you guys would like.
Amazing, man. Yeah, thanks so much for taking the time. I guess maybe to start off, give us a little introduction. Who are you? How are you involved at Colosseum? And tell us a little bit about kind of your journey, how you wound up in crypto.
Yeah, for sure. So I got into crypto in college, I was really into, I guess, Bitcoin at the time. I wrote my undergraduate thesis on Bitcoin mining and sort of the economics around that market. And yeah, at the time though, there wasn't much of like a crypto industry. There wasn't, there was maybe a few exchanges that had started at the time, but I moved to San Francisco after graduation and worked at a company called Square, which was building sort of payments related stuff. And they actually did integrate Bitcoin into their product called Cash App. But at that time, I met my future co-founder Clay, who was working at Square on the same team as me, and we would just spend all day just talking about Ethereum and Bitcoin primarily at the time. And we actually left to go work at a project called 0x, which was a DEX product in the Ethereum ecosystem, actually one of the first decentralized exchange protocols, and worked there for a few years and kind of got a little disillusioned with how sort of like smart contracts and the infrastructure was developing in the Ethereum ecosystem between like 2018 and 2019. And around that time, I left to join as head of growth at Solana Labs when they were starting out. And one of the things that I worked a lot on during that time was the hackathons. That kind of led to what Colosseum is today. So we've sort of carried the torch of running the ecosystem hackathons, which has resulted in actually most of the venture-backed startups and founders in the ecosystem. So a lot of the DeFi protocols that you guys know about today, like Camino or Jito, those were once hackathon teams at a time. And we decided to raise like a venture fund around investing in early stage teams in the Solana ecosystem, started an accelerator program that kind of connected with the hackathon. And then we launched that in 2024. And so we've been still continuing to run the hackathon. We built this platform, Colosseum.com, that kind of is caters to how we run hackathons, which is a little bit different than a traditional hackathon in a bunch of different ways. And so we're continuing to develop that. We're continuing to invest in early stage startups in Solana, and happy to chat about also our newest hackathon, which just launched a couple days ago, called Frontier. That's probably a good overview and introduction to who I am. Oh, you're muted, Chris.
Jeepers. I'm obviously still sleeping here. Unmuted now. Thanks very much for the intro, Matt. Much appreciated. Godo, how are you doing today, brother? What's going on?
Yeah, doing pretty good, man. Doing very good. Been seeing, honestly, was stoked for this live. Been seeing a lot of content regarding the Frontier Hackathon. Been seeing a lot of projects that have been signing up, which is cool, man. I think for me, as like from an outside perspective of like a viewer or like a user of apps, like it's cool to see all these new ideas get formed, and especially from like people that you already kind of know within the ecosystem or have seen throughout the past years, and them getting to build and showcase what they're doing. Yeah, I'm excited. And then also, I mean, this upcoming next week here, we've got the build station at Super Team Canada, which is going to be super exciting week. There's 3 build kind of events throughout that week. That'll be sick. So yeah, I'm just stoked to get involved with that and see what everyone produces.
Great. Yeah, no, we love Super Team Canada. We actually love all the super teams. They're big contributors to the hackathons, and they run these like build stations all over the world, and attract a bunch of developers to experiment. So yeah, really excited to see what comes out of those.
Nice one, man. Well, Maddie, I've got 1 or 2 more personal, sort of semi-personal questions to ask you before we move on to Colosseum. Obviously, you worked at Square, and then you worked at OX on Ethereum, and then you kind of moved over to Solana Labs, or Solana, which was obviously then Solana Foundation. What was it that actually made you commit to Solana? Was it just kind of seeing the vision, or was there something specific that kind of happened that led you to kind of pivoting? That's obviously a big move.
Yeah, I think there was a couple things at the time. I think one thing was just that it was pretty clear around 2019 that there was sort of this splintering of infrastructure, and that was resulting in a really tough like downstream user experience for applications. So 0x was building sort of like the first DEX aggregator called Matcha, and they were trying to figure out how it was going to integrate with all of these sort of L2s that were popping up, how sharding would work, I guess, which was like the hot scaling path at the time. And then there was like an exploration of like sort of next gen blockchains like Polkadot and Algorand and all of these things. And they kind of all had were making the same trade-offs in terms of, or near, where it was sort of this fragmented infrastructure layer that was going to make it pretty difficult, I thought, on apps to create a clean user experience, and also just fractured liquidity and all these things that were really important for end users. And so I think at that time I wasn't like, looking for Solana specifically. I think I was just kind of open to sort of new ideas in this particular area, and I got reached out to by Raj and the team at the time, and I think just learning about their sort of view of it, and learning that once Solana went to mainnet, that it actually could work. I think there was a lot of like interesting, there was a lot of people claiming like crazy TPS projections, and a lot of promises were being made on the technology, and these folks had actually like executed over the course of a couple of years to actually bring something that actually worked to some extent in a live kind of mainnet environment. And so it was that, in combination with just meeting Raj and Anatoly, are kind of like forces of nature, and honestly they're bent on sort of, I would say, like making blockchains like commercially viable was like something that was a little bit of a frustration point. Like there was a lot of like really cool, and there still are like a really amazing kind of like ideas and concepts that have come out of the Ethereum and like Cosmos ecosystems. But I think the thing that it was at least missing at the time was sort of this commercialized bent to actually like bringing this technology to a bunch of different people around the world, and lowering costs and making the user experience like really great. And so I felt like that they sort of embodied that view, and how they like ran the team, which was much more like kind of like a Silicon Valley startup at the time. It was in fact in San Francisco at the time. So I think all of those things sort of culminated in a decision to just like sort of jump into the ecosystem and see how I could help contribute to its growth.
Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. And definitely cool to hear about your journey and why you've kind of switched, pivoted, I guess would be the right word to use, from ETH to Solana. And then obviously you had 4 years as head of growth, and that's obviously a big role to be in. What did the role actually look like day to day? I know you said you spent a lot of time running the hackathons and stuff, but what else did you kind of do on a daily basis in your role as head of growth?
Yeah, we were just trying out various experiments around like how we could grow the developer ecosystem, how we could not even just the developer ecosystem, but the startup founder ecosystem. So, which is maybe a little bit different type of profile than just like a standard like open source developer. And so I think we tried a lot of different things. Obviously, the hackathon was the thing I think that was most effective in bringing in a lot of developers and startup founders, but there was all sorts of things from like IRL hacker houses. I don't know if you remember that, or we would do everything from like we sponsored like Lollapalooza to try to attract more creator types to the ecosystem when the NFT standard got developed. We did all sorts of small scale experiments that kind of I was involved with to help try to grow that. But over time, I'd say in my last year or so at the foundation, it was really doubling and tripling down on this hackathon, because what we found when we ran the numbers was that about over 85% of all sort of developers and startup founders in the ecosystem were coming through this one funnel that was the hackathon. And so it just became very clear that we needed to just sort of triple down our efforts on that funnel. And that ultimately led to Colosseum sort of becoming an independent organization, of building its like own platform, hiring its own team around it, and ultimately also raising like a venture fund, because at the time it was kind of like post FTX. There wasn't really any venture capital coming into the startup ecosystem on Solana yet. What we were seeing in the competitions, at least in the hackathon, there was a bunch of really good founders that were coming in. In fact, many of them have gone on to do quite well, and so that were started around that time. And so I think, from our perspective, is like we need to go out and raise institutional capital to like bring into the ecosystem, because the current sort of ecosystem of crypto investors were not supporting teams. And so that was also sort of an impetus. So that's I guess a little bit of the work that I did the foundation, as well as starting ultimately Colosseum.
Amazing. Well, that's a great moment to kind of segue to the next question and move a bit more into Colosseum. What was the moment that you decided to leave the foundation and start Colosseum? And how are the two kind of interlinked today?
Yeah, so today, Colosseum is an independent organization. The way that it's connected with the Solana Foundation is that we have an agreement with them to run their hackathon for them, as well as the ecosystem. So we run that twice per year, which Frontier is one of those sort of tentpole events. They also are investors in our venture fund. They're an LP in our venture fund as well, along with a bunch of other investors. But they contribute to both of the sides of our business. The moment that I think I wanted to start Colosseum, I had probably wanted to do this even like a year into being at Colosseum, just because I saw that it was like pretty clear that this sort of modified version of how we were evolving the hackathon and the success that we were having in sort of bringing in really quality founders was something that probably needed to be its own sort of standalone organization. The point at which I knew that this could happen was I was looking for a couple co-founders who could kind of bring things to the table that I couldn't. So I'm somewhat technical, but I'm not like really, a back-end software engineer or something like that. And so I think the thing that made me want to jump into this, full time was that I found two friends and convinced them to do this with me, basically. That's sort of my co-founders, Clay and Nate. So Clay, as I mentioned, was someone I met at Square, and he had a bunch of like operational and venture experience. So he worked at Slow Ventures, which was one of the seed investors in Solana.
Wow.
And Nate, who I met actually in college, but he was a longtime engineer, full stack engineer at Stripe. And so getting them on board to go start it with me, I think was sort of the necessary thing that Colosseum, it's kind of origin story. So I think that was pretty much it. And we started kind of raising and started building things in 2023, ultimately got it off the ground in 2024.
Amazing.
So was that like when you made that switch and started, you guys started Colosseum, was that something that the foundation was down to support like right away?
I think they've always been supportive of this. And I think even from when I was first hired, I think Raj and Anatoly wanted to hire people who were sort of like entrepreneurial, because you were given a lot of freedom to do that within the bounds of, Solana Labs and Solana Foundation at the time. And so I think there was always some expectation that this kind of would happen long term. I just didn't know when. And I think once I found my co-founders and we had like a credible way of like getting it off the ground, it was a little bit dicey at the time just because like FTX had just happened. And I think there was a lot of question marks whether like Solana was going to be around in a couple of years, and like how are we going to convince institutional capital to invest in our fund. And so I think there was some uncertainty that like we could actually get it off the ground, but like I think several months into it, showing our progress, I think it became clear that we were going to be able to do it, and I think they've been very supportive ever since then. So love working with the Solana Foundation, and I think they've continued to help us, and hopefully we've helped them as well.
Nice.
Fantastic. Right. So now kind of doing a bit more of a deep dive into Colosseum. It's obviously a hackathon, but it's also an accelerator and a venture fund. Walk us through how those three pieces of the puzzle connect.
Yeah, I think so. One thing is just like when you're looking at like these crypto L1 ecosystems, you need some sort of dependable, repeatable funnel that is good at bringing in new developer talent and founder talent. And so the hackathon, which is sort of the core of what we do, is sort of that mechanism that I think is tried and true and is actually working. And I think we can see that in the numbers of just every single hackathon is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. There's more product submissions. There's more funding coming into these teams. These products are actually working several years after, like they're actually filling up block space and block demand, and user transactions. And so I think it's been successful in that sense. And so our sort of core is still just starting to scale those up continually, keep evolving the Colosseum.com platform to attract more developers and more startup founders. And so the question then was like, should we just be kind of like an ETH Global type entity for the Solana ecosystem, which is basically like they get paid based on like running more and more hackathons, right? They get sponsorship money, and then they kind of incentivize to keep running these things. And I think what we felt was that actually the best way to align long-term success with the Solana Foundation and the Solana ecosystem at large was, and just like crypto generally, it's like we should become a venture fund that basically supports the very top founders coming out of every competition, put them through like an accelerator program that helps them go from maybe like the hackathon gets them from 0 to 1, and then we get them from like 1 to 2, where they can actually potentially raise like a proper seed round and start finding product market fit. And so, we select basically about 10 teams out of every hackathon to invest in and put them through an accelerator program, which is in San Francisco now in our office. And I think that that sort of aligns that we're looking for like the very best founders that can make a big impact in the ecosystem, not raw total numbers. The interesting thing that has happened though by us focusing just on the top founders is that it has attracted a lot of people because they want to be, there's so much distribution, I guess, benefit of winning these competitions that it has sort of, I think, aligned incentives even to grow just like the total number of developers in the ecosystem as well. And so I guess that's one lens to look at sort of the connection between the hackathon, the accelerator, and the venture fund. The other thing from a venture fund perspective, I think that is interesting is that if you think about other like traditional accelerators like YC, the way that they sort of evaluate founder talent is they have people, they host like basically a college admissions process, right? Where you fill out a written form and then you have like a 10-minute interview with them and they choose who to invest in based on that. I think one thing that the hackathon serves for us beyond just like growing the total number of developers and founders in the ecosystem is a way for us to sort of evaluate founder talent. And so our model is basically like, what if YC, instead of investing in accepting people into the program immediately, what if they watched them for like 6 weeks and saw how they sort of operated in the real world in terms of like how they prioritize features, how they sprinted on go-to-market, how they sort of communicated with not just like the team internally, but externally in finding users and such. Like, would they make the same sort of investment decisions? And our thesis was that no, actually, like that extra bit of information that you get from something like a 6-week time box competition where you can sort of look into the GitHub, look into the work that they did during that period of time is going to inform on, give us an extra layer of data to make investment decisions. And so the hackathon also sort of serves that purpose for us. And in fact, like we have this other program that whenever the hackathons aren't running, we have this program called Eternal that basically the only way to basically apply to Colosseum or to our accelerator or get venture funding is to go through this Eternal process, which is like this on-demand sort of hackathon process that kind of serves the same purpose for us, where you sprint over a 4-week period. We watch kind of what you do every single week. You give us like a presentation at the end. You give us your GitHub repo, and we can make investment decisions, I think, more effectively that way. So hopefully that kind of gives you a sense of like, how all of this connects from like a venture fund perspective, but also just like running the hackathon and the accelerator.
Absolutely. I love the way you guys actually have like your finger on the pulse with exactly what's happening with these teams. Instead of just being like, hey, here's an idea, give us money. It's kind of like, we actually get to see you operate, see how you work, dive into the code, actually see what it is that you guys are building over an extended period of time. And then you can make like a way more informed decision. So it definitely makes sense to have it kind of laid out like that. What would you say that kind of makes Colosseum hackathons different from like every other hackathon in tech or in crypto?
A few things. So one thing is just like the length. I think we were actually probably one of the first people to extend the hackathon like beyond a week or two. I mean, the longest hackathon I had heard about prior to Colosseum or to us running these things at the Solana Foundation was about a week. And so we said, hey, like take almost like a week and a half, 2 months to like submit something. And so I think just the length of the competition is a little bit different because with traditional hackathons, one of the problems that are like why people kind of are skeptical of it as like a way to start startups is that usually you just go to a place IRL, like a cafeteria or a convention center, and you get a sleeping bag and a bunch of Red Bull and pizza and just like try to hack something together over the course of like 48 hours. And it's a very sort of, I guess, ephemeral experience versus like committing to a full engineering sprint over the course of like 6 weeks or 5 weeks. You can just get way more done, and also just like puts like it gives people practice on like what it actually means to like do a startup every month. And so the length is very different. The second thing is that we have no bounties or tracks. So if you go to the Frontier website, you'll see that there's a grand prize winner. And then there's basically like, a university team, a public goods award, but then there's just the 20 next best teams, regardless of use case, basically. And so I think that's one thing that's like a pretty big difference, is that I think with hackathons traditionally have been very like prescriptive with what people should build, in the form of like, hey, get 5K for integrating with Phantom, or get 10K for integrating with like Camino. And like, so what you see is these sort of Frankenstein like projects that are trying to like pick up all the bounties, right, and put it into the product, versus like starting with sort of like a startup or a product that you want to bring to market, and just like going and competing with that, and using the technologies and tools that are going to best fit for bringing that to market. And so I think that's another reason why I think us being a venture fund as our business model has afforded us the ability to not have tracks, because that's historically how, I guess, like an ETH Global or a hackathon company would raise money or revenue, right, is by raising a bunch of capital from sponsors. And so we do have sponsors, and they do support us, but all of that money kind of goes back into the platform and marketing channels and prizes. And so I think that's a pretty substantially different. And I think we see this every week actually, is that people, I think, well, before I get to that, but like the last piece of it that is different is like just the focus of the competition is on a viable business and viable startups. So if you do just a ton of work, you're just cranking on your Opus or Codex like coding model for 6 weeks, and you're like, look at all the code that I produced during this week. Like, how should I not win? Like, I've just done more work than everyone. That's not going to win. That's not going to be, something that we really care about. Like, you have to choose something that's like a viable sort of business and a potentially like interesting thing for the ecosystem long term, in terms of like filling up block space and increasing on-chain activity. And so I think just the way that we approach like awarding teams and like how we choose winners and such is pretty different than a traditional hackathon. And so, putting that all together, I think makes for a very different experience, to the point where we see this all the time on Twitter, which is like, people like, you should stop calling it a hackathon. It's not like a traditional hackathon. You're kind of like maybe misleading people into what it is. And I think from our perspective, it is maybe a startup competition is a better way to describe what this has sort of evolved into, even though we started as a hackathon. I'd say the one reason why we haven't changed the name, though, is that what's interesting about it is that a lot of people still come into it and treat it like a traditional hackathon. So a lot of the participants are not startup founders. They're people who are just learning about Solana, or maybe want to get a job in the ecosystem. So they're not startup founders. However, what we found over the course of like, I guess like 5 or 6 years now, is that there is this sort of interesting funnel that gets developed where, and I think the most recent winner of the last hackathon, this team called Unruggable, was a team that had participated in like 7 prior hackathons. And each hackathon, it wasn't like the first one that they like set out like, hey, we're going to be a startup founder. No, it was just like, hey, we learned about Solana. We want to learn about development, so we're going to just join this competition and see how it goes. And then they're like, okay, well, this is cool, and then maybe we can get a job in the ecosystem next time, and this will help pad our resume if we can like build something interesting on Solana. And then it kind of developed over the years into like, no, we actually we have a lot of experience now in Solana. We have this like startup idea, maybe we should use this way as getting distribution for it, or maybe we can win a prize and get some funding from it. All the way to where they like basically won the grand prize last time, after winning honorable mention a few times and participating even before that with no prizes. And so we kept the name Hackathon because we see this very long-term sort of funnel of people joining the ecosystem, learning about Solana, getting a job in the ecosystem, and then getting to the point where like, hey, I think I actually want to go out on my own and build my own startup. So that funnel is really important to us long-term.
Amazing. That's an exciting prospect as well. Obviously, for anyone who has kind of been in the Solana ecosystem for several years and they understand what kind of would work and what wouldn't work, I think it's so great to have a place to kind of go and participate, to try and bring your idea to life. And I guess that's ultimately what you guys are kind of providing. So let's move on and chat a little bit more about Frontier. So obviously Frontier kicked off, for those of you who don't know, Frontier kicked off on the 6th of April. Give us the rundown, Maddie. What is it? How long does it run? And who should sign up? And can people still sign up for it? Or are entries like closed now?
No, registration is open. It's open till like basically close to the very end, which is on May 11th is when you need to submit your project by. Yeah, I mean, it's off. I mean, there's over 10,000 individual builders that are participating at this point, which is pretty impressive. I think that's like way outpacing previous hackathons. So that's great to see. Yeah, I think, yeah, we're looking for, like, as the name says, builders and founders building on the frontier. So obviously there's a lot of interesting, crypto ideas that have been circulating for a long time. And we want to see people sort of continue to experiment with all sorts of weird and wacky ideas, across use cases. Again, why we don't have specific bounties or categories anymore. I think the one thing that there's an engineer on our team called Max who built this product called Copilot. And so what Copilot does, that we built specifically for this, is that you connect it to your coding agent, and you can start basically kind of communicating with it on your idea before you even start building. Like, have people built this idea before in previous hackathons. So it's got this repo, it's connected, the context is given all the previous hackathon submissions from history, and it can surface up all the sort of similar ideas that have been tried in the past, around maybe what you've been building. And so you can learn about, like, maybe what those projects did, what made them fail, maybe gives you an insight about where you could succeed. It's also connected with, tons of sort of academic research, from economics over the years. And so you can kind of communicate with it, about maybe potential, like, on-chain implementations of interesting, ideas from the past, connected with, like, also, like, other venture funds like blogs and YC's materials. And so it's just got this big context window of things that, you can chat with it about in terms of, like, finding your idea, and ultimately, like, building it in the hackathon. And so I think, that's a pretty exciting thing. I encourage everyone to be using, I guess, these coding tools. It's completely changed over the last, like, I think 3 or 4 months, where now, just even in our last, like, accelerator batch, I'd say that, prior to 3 or 4 months ago, the thing that people always asked us, the first thing after we invested, is, like, how do I find a co-founder, or how do I find my first, like, full-time engineer besides myself? In our newest batch, no one asks that anymore. They just have these coding agents, and they're, like, kind of being almost like an engineering manager, and, like, reviewing code and giving these things tasks to do. And so I expect that just, the pace of development that one can complete during the course of a hackathon is just going to be way more than previous hackathons. So you gotta become familiar with how to use tools, and ultimately, like, we're building tools for those tools. So the Copilot, we have a skills file that basically connects with the repository from the Solana Foundation, but also all the other ecosystem teams that have skills. And so I think this is, like, a pretty big change for how these competitions are going to be run in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's huge.
I also wanted to dive into that kind of area a little bit more, because what you were saying really resonated about the tools that are now available versus what was available, say, a year or 2 or 3 years ago. You've got tools now where you can literally build Solana apps in under an hour. So we had, I don't know if you've heard Loa, but I've played around with it, and I have zero coding experience. And I was able to build, like, a working Solana dApp in under an hour. I think what you're kind of seeing as well is like this lowered barrier to entry, where not anyone, but I guess pretty much anyone can now actually build a functional app, in a short space of time. And I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, because you're obviously going to get a lot of slop as well. But at the end of the day, would you say that like someone could still win a hackathon with like far less coding or engineering experience? If it's just someone who has like a really good idea and got product market fit, maybe they're a trusted person in the ecosystem. What kind of counts the most towards, someone who's a winner?
Yeah, rise of the idea guy, right? Is what you're hearing. Yeah, I mean, I think, just in the last 3 to 4 months, just with how exponentially better these coding models and agents have gotten, is that, and I think maybe this is one reason, we haven't dug into the details quite yet, but I think one of the reasons why maybe registrations are kind of going through the roof is that even like non-technical people can join these competitions now and be sort of solo devs to get out like an MVP at least, to get people playing around with some idea in their hands and seeing. I don't think like you can build a startup necessarily fully with these things and scale your technology yet with just using these coding models, but you can definitely get out some sort of a proof of concept to see if there's sort of market validation, to see if there's, a reason to bring in like a technical co-founder to help scale out and review the code and find all the security bugs and all this sort of stuff. And so I think certainly I expect to see like solo non-technical founders to start producing like pretty interesting stuff that we're actually already seeing it. So like we've already seen people start filling out like some of the submission form, which we watch and we review, and there's definitely some people who have zero coding experience or very little who are building pretty sophisticated Solana apps, which I think is great. I think it just makes it more competitive. I think it expands the types of ideas that people are bringing to the table. And so, I think it's a huge thing. And it's totally evolving how we're judging it. So, you're right. Like there's a lot, even in the last hackathon, there's a lot more slop, I would say. But we've actually built out our own agent to help sort of like filter through some of this stuff. That's like a pretty advanced agent that helps us even judge. And just the way that Colosseum works, I mean, like every conversation we have internally or with external teams for seed funding interviews or whatever, hackathon interviews, is all getting recorded and put into this, agent that we have that's like reviewing projects, and it's like aggregating all this information from all the hackathon data we've ever had, and we're giving it feedback, and it's learning about how we make investment decisions. So I'm not saying that this thing is like ever going to make like investment decisions and be like auto choosing teams, but like it's already helping us like surface things that maybe we've missed in the past. And so it's a really exciting time to be in technology generally, but also just running competitions like this to see kind of like what's on the bleeding edge.
Yeah, no kidding.
Absolutely.
So other than the prize money, like what are these teams competing for?
So there's like the non-dilutive capital of hackathon prizes. From the pool, I'd say, so we have 23 winners this time. Of those 23 winners, we're going to probably invest in about 10 of them. And so each one of those will get $250K in pre-seed funding and get an invite to come, basically work with us for 2 months at our office in San Francisco, which is the accelerator program. And so over the last, I think, since around when we started Colosseum, I would say that's been the reason why most winners are participating. In fact, like a lot of winners don't even redeem their prizes. They just kind of like, they just want the seed funding. They want a way to get into the accelerator. And so I'd say that's like probably the bigger carrot that people care about at this point. But obviously the non-dilutive prizes can help. Like they're like I think the grand prize winner gets 30K, and then all the other ones get 10K. So not nothing for sure, but I think most people are competing for that like 250K check.
Yeah, that's huge. That's massive. All right, and then kind of you touched on it now, but you're obviously running the San Francisco build station. Is this San Francisco, right? Build station.
Yes. We were sort of.
So that's obviously where. Sorry, man. I just wanted to say that's obviously where select founders can kind of build IRL. That's, I'm assuming, at the Colosseum office. So how would you get a spot? Is that, like you said, the top 20? Eh?
No. So this is something separate. So as you probably know, like all these super teams and ecosystem orgs, even though they're non-super team, run like these sort of IRL build stations that people in the hackathon can come, basically build in person. I mean, it's a little bit, I mean, obviously the hackathons are online and the submission process is online, and most people, compete online primarily, but there's something to be said to have like a place that you can go meet other builders who are competing in the hackathon in person and learn about what other people are building, and spend time doing that. And so we've seen some success with that with some of the super teams in like the UK and Germany and places around Canada. And so we're opening up our office during the competition to folks that maybe want to travel or in the Bay Area to come build in our office. And this is not accepting people into the accelerator. It's just like people who are, we think, pretty high signal, that are probably building interesting things that we may want to interview down the line after they submit, to come just like spend some time in person, because the office is probably got like space for like 50 to 75 people, and there's probably 10 to 20 people in there at any given time, and so there's just extra space that we wanted to open up during the hackathon in case people wanted to build. So we have a separate application form in Luma for people that want to build during the hackathon between now and May 11th, basically. But that does not guarantee a spot in the accelerator.
Okay, got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And then obviously we're going to show the promo video for the hackathon shortly.
Sure.
The last question before we drop that. There's obviously been 80,000 plus total participants across all of the previous Solana hackathons. Where would you say the growth is coming from geographically? Like, where would you say most of the developers are from? Is it Europe? Is it Africa, India, US?
Yeah, I think it's a big mix, honestly. Like, okay. I'd say the two top of those 80K, I think the two top are by far India and the US. However, that probably accounts for 50%, I would say, or 40% of everyone. So the long tail after that, which is pretty evenly distributed, is pretty immense. But I would say India has been, like, I'd say number one in terms of growth, especially in this most recent hackathon. I think like something like 35 to 40% of all registrations are coming out of India for this current hackathon. So we'll see what that converts to in terms of like end product submissions. But I'd say India and US are probably top two, but there's a long tail of that remaining 60% from all over the world. So yeah, that's what we found so far.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's drop this video.
Sure.
I'm gonna quickly add it to the stage. Can you guys see it all right?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena. Who, at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly.
Yeah, that's epic.
Absolute banger. Very, very sick. Hold up.
Yeah, it's the first one I think we've made with just like pure AI. So it was a little janky, but like I think it was cool. Yeah, we love that. I don't know if people know, but like there's this famous like Teddy Roosevelt quote about like being in the arena. And so that's like the alien, just like kind of weird alien, yeah, giving that speech. But yeah, I think overall, like my co-founder wrote a blog post about this at the end of last year, but a lot of the best ideas I think that we see that have actually done pretty well in crypto have come from just like very weird corners of the internet that people maybe aren't paying attention to. Like we obviously want to see a bunch of like agentic payments stuff, and we want to see a lot of new DeFi protocols, but a lot of the more interesting solutions have come from things that people maybe weren't paying attention to. So another plug for Copilot of just like doing a lot of research with that tool to kind of understand maybe some novel stuff from economics or academia that you can kind of implement on chain. I think this is obviously like Bitcoin itself is sort of a product of that, like learning about Austrian economics and, sort of non-sovereign currencies and even things like prediction markets, right, came from academic research, AMMs, MetaDAO, like Futarchy, like all of these sort of things that we're pretty excited about have kind of found founders who have done their research on sort of like these weird things that maybe have been lost in sort of the sands of time. So yeah, pretty excited to see what people build.
Amazing, man. Well, before we wrap up, I want to quickly, I'm just going to share the screen again. Let's have a look here. Stop screen. Sorry, give me 2 seconds.
Really quick, while you're doing that, can we get Maddie's, like, what is your favorite part about doing these hackathons? Is it like right now watching who's signing up, what people are building? Is it going through the submissions? Is it picking winners? Is it the success these products are getting afterwards? Yeah, I would love to know what your favorite part about this is.
Yeah, it's a good question. I haven't been asked that. I think from my perspective, there's a couple points that are interesting. One is, so when we review hackathon projects, it's a little, we review, I guess last time 1,600 submissions. And that can be quite tedious because there is like sort of AI slop and there's just a lot to get through. But I'd say once we go through our first couple review weeks and then we get down to like the top 100 to 200 teams, like we talk to every single one of them. We request interviews with all of those, and like just getting on a call, like, or in person, like meeting these people and like learning about, what they're building and how they found it and like why they're passionate about it and like what their future plans are is like always like a really fun time for our team to just sort of dig in with, those top 100 to 200 teams. And ultimately getting down to the 10 teams or so, or 12 teams that we invest in is a fun process. That's one. And then, after we've invested, when teams start finding a little bit of product market fit, which hasn't, I mean, it's only happened, I would say, to a handful of teams that we've invested in so far. But when that happens, is like really, really awesome, because it is really, really bleak for a long time, for a lot of years potentially. Like it's 2 to 3 years probably of really, really tough, just day in and day out grinds for a lot of these folks. Even if teams like, come out of the gate and like there's a lot of excitement about that, there's usually going to be a couple year period where there's like a dark time where they gotta kind of reinvent themselves or pivot or find a way to find product market fit. And so when teams have gone through that process, it's pretty awesome to see. So I'd say those are the two sort of times that give me the most fulfillment, at least.
Nice.
Awesome. Alrighty. I'm just going to quickly share my screen again. So obviously got some really, really cool people on the judges panel. Obviously, Toli, Garrett here, absolute legend from Squads. We've had him on the show actually before. I see Phil's here as well. And any other like noteworthy people that you'd like to give a shout out to or mention who are on the panel? I see Lily's here as well.
Yeah, I mean, so this is like the people who like really like are tasked with like looking through stuff in depth. We send projects to a ton of people in the ecosystem, like that are not listed here. So like a lot of the top founders in crypto, whether that's like Mert or Buffalo from Cheeto, or a lot of these guys that have been around the hackathon for a long time and have been building in the Solana ecosystem for a long time. A lot of them look at a lot of the potential winners because they're interested in seeing kind of like what's around the corner in the ecosystem as well. And so I think that the interesting thing about the hackathon, I think why a lot of people participate at this point, is that I still think it's like by far the best way to get a lot of eyeballs on your project, especially if you win. Like that, literally thousands of people, like even when we release like a product directory after every hackathon that shows like all the submissions, that gets like thousands and thousands of views per project. And so I just think also aggregate amount of eyeballs that you get to see your project is also really impactful. So hopefully, if you're working on something interesting, most likely someone will find it and take some interest in it.
Amazing. Fantastic, Matt. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to join us today. Before we wrap up this segment of the show, have you got any last things that you'd like to share with the viewers, and any advice or recommendations?
I think the only advice and recommendation I give is like make sure that if you're competing in the hackathon that you spend at least like the last week of it just refining your pitch. So everyone is required to submit like a 2-minute video pitch that gives a holistic view of like what you're building, why you build it, like why you specifically are best suited to build it. Because obviously most of the people who compete in these things are non-technical or like really smart developers, but no one's gonna, even if you build the best product in the world, if you can't communicate why it's important and find users, no one's gonna care. So I think being able to communicate and explain like in a clear way like why you built it and why it's important and why people should care about it is something that people should spend a lot of time on. And so especially for judges, like the first thing that people always look at is that 2-minute pitch video that kind of gives an overview of what was built. So spend a good amount of time preparing that.
Amazing. Well, once again, Matt, thanks so much for joining us today. It's been great to meet you, and good luck with the rest of the hackathon. And look forward to hopefully crossing paths again soon.
Awesome. Yeah, really appreciate it, guys. Hopefully see you in person soon.
Awesome,
Cheers, Matt.
Take care.
Pleasure,
Cheers,
man.
Matt.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try.
Yeah, we should have that song queued up, bro.
Oh, I should have. Oh well. Time to rip some packs.
Yeah, stoked for this. For the audience that's watching, Chris and I kind of when we have time and we're not working, we've been kind of messing around on a new platform, a new TCG platform that I think a lot of people will like, and so we kind of just wanted to share it. It's called Packly. Yeah, you're gonna pull it up right now, eh?
100%. Yeah, I'm gonna pull it up now. Ta-da!
Beautiful. So, any of my Pokemon lovers, this end part of the stream is for you. Let's get some hits. But yeah, Chris, you've got it pulled up. I don't know if you want to give a quick breakdown.
Yeah, 100%. So essentially, Packly is a new, it's non-crypto, it's a Web 2 platform. And basically you can rip packs, but the packs have the same odds as normal boosters, right? But the payouts are better, if I'm not mistaken, right, Godo?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I think they are.
So anyway, yeah, so you're not going to get lowballed on buying back the cards, basically. But when the cards get bought back, you get paid out in these gems, not in dollars. So you can go here, you can buy gems. The rates for gems are incredibly good. So you can buy 700 gems, which is the equivalent of a booster, for basically $7, which is essentially cheaper than market rate for the actual packs themselves. And then if you buy more gems, you obviously get bigger bonuses, which is really cool as well. You can obviously pay here with Stripe, which is super intuitive. The other thing that's really cool is you can switch on auto selling of bulk, which is very interesting. And there is a leaderboard, question mark, which it looks like Sal Zero. We got Sock in second place, who spent 310,000 gems
up at the top, right?
Yeah.
Like everybody's just been grinding it out.
Look, Fudder's there. Devour with 30,000 gems spent. So Devour's been having an absolute field day. Well, time to get my name on the list.
Time to run it
up. Let's give this thing a go. Okay, so we've obviously got 20,000 gems. We can pick from a bunch of different packs, but I think let's start off with an Eternal Heroes pack. Godo, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a good call. It's just taking, just a heads up, it's taking like a little bit longer to load. I'm guessing it's probably just VPN. So just a heads up, if you click out of anything, give it a moment.
No at all. Okay, can you see that clearly?
Yeah, that's perfect. I actually pulled some sick cards on the Eternal Heroes packs yesterday. Or not yesterday, day before.
Amazing. All right. Well, we're going to be ripping some packs. So let's, and you can also select, you can do multiple packs at any given time. So we could rip 5 packs in one go. I think we're going to stick to, let's just do one for now so I can kind of show you guys. Very, very cool. Let's do this. Tap the pack to rip it. Boom. Tap the card to flip it. So this is the same opening normal packs, basically. You can basically just do that and you can reveal all of the cards that are in the pack, which is really, really cool. I love that you can do that. So nothing special so far. Got a couple cards left here. And just oh, boo. Okay, so we're going to sell all the, nothing special there. We'll do a couple of these. Okay, let's rip again. Let's see what we get in the next one. Okay.
If you guys want to try this platform out as well, it's packly.gg. I would definitely recommend getting on there, signing up. This has been one of the funnest TCG opening experiences that I've ever seen. Yeah, definitely more addicting.
There we go. Nice EX. It's not the
Hey.
best, but I think let's do this. Let's sell that. Hang on. I don't know why I can't sell it. Ah, there we go. Sell. We're gonna keep the Feraligatr. I know it's not like a super crazy hit, but it's better than nothing. And the cool thing about this is that you get these gems back, so you can rip more packs. And the rate that you get back is really, really good. So we're gonna keep that one. Okay, let's try ripping. We'll do this one, and then after that, we're gonna try to rip a couple in one go. Let's see what we get with this one. Come on, give us something big. Oh, nothing special in this one either. Let's do a big one now. So we'll sell all of these ones.
Let's try a different pack.
Yeah, we can do that. Well, we're gonna do 5 of this, and see what we get from 5 packs.
Okay, bet.
And then we'll move to a different one.
Okay, dope.
Okay, let's do it. So 5 packs. Okay, quick open. Let's try the quick open feature. You can quick open the packs. So let's see what happens when you do that. Boom. Oh, does it not show you the cards? Okay, let's just go through these. Nothing special there. We're on pack 3 now. Nothing special there. Come on, give us a SIR. Oh, I quick opened it. Oops. Okay, let's go through these. Oh, yes. SIR. Let's go. Sick.
Oh,
That
dude,
is a
that's a
banger. Team Rocket's Mimikyu. Okay. Let's go. Happy with that one.
I think we should. I don't know. Should we give some away?
We should
What do we
definitely
think?
give some
Maybe
away.
we should. Maybe we should give some. Maybe we should hold on to them and give them away on the next stream. A little incentive.
I think that's a fantastic plan. So if you're watching now, be sure to join on the next stream, and we're going to give away some of the packs from today's stream. I think those
Chances
are great.
are Chris and I are going to be just as addicted next week, and we're going to continue opening packs next week as well. So
exactly.
Yeah, I would say just turn noties on for the FaZe account so you never miss one. That's a banger card though, dude. So if you actually click the cart on that, it should go to the cart, and then you can just bulk sell all the rest and not have to like go sell them all individually.
Okay, so I can click sell all now, and we're not going to lose this one.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just make sure that we didn't get any other hits, because I did quick open some of those packs. Maybe this one's not bad. 900. That's the equivalent of 1 pack in 1 card.
Oh, it's a banger.
So keep that one too. Yeah, for sure. We'll definitely keep that one. I think the rest of them we can pretty safely sell. All right. Sell all. We keep those 2.
And then the amount of gems you got back is enough for another pack, right? Which is sick. So.
Oh yeah, 100%. No, we still got loads left, but I think we're not going to blow the whole load today. We've gone through almost 5,000 gems, so let's do one more pack. Should we do a 5-on-5? Well, it's actually 151, but should we do this one? This is a more expensive pack.
This is where I hit most of my bangers the other day, actually.
Oh my god. Okay, let's have a look. See. Let's see. Give it a sec to load. Oh, okay. So the 2% cards in this pack, the Charizard, SAR, the Blastoise, Venusaur, those 3. Oh man, maybe we get a God pack. And then this is a beautiful Zapdos. Alakazam. I actually had this card.
That's one of my favorite cards of all time, dude. I don't own him. But that's
It's
a card
beautiful.
that I would like to win.
It's very, very nice. Well, let's see what we get with this pack. And then we will be wrapping up for the day. Okay. Last pack magic, people. Let's go. God pack. Okay. Not a
Click
God pack.
slow.
Diglett. Krabby. Oddish. Meowth. Dugong. Venomoth. Tangela.
Come on.
Old Amber. Come
Come on.
Oh, damn. Okay. All right. So nothing special in that one. We're going to sell all of those. Can we do one more?
That just means we have to come back, dude. I need that
it
card.
does. You see, this is the problem with these things, man. Okay, we're going to rip one more. One more. We got to do one more.
Right.
One more pack for the boys. Okay, here we go. What do we got? We got Oddish. Another Oddish.
I kind of feel like
Another
this
Oddish.
is... That's actually a sick
Electabuzz.
card. Not gonna lie.
Another Oddish.
Is that 3
Execute.
Oddish one pack? That's crazy.
I think it was like 4. Rapidash. Oh, that's a nice looking Raticate. I love the illustration on there. That's cool. Drowsy. Moltres. Oh, damn. Nothing special. We did get a double rare in this pack, which is cool.
That Flareon's sick.
Yeah, nice illustration, but nothing too special, I don't think. Yeah, the Moltres is 100. We could probably keep that one and sell the rest. Right, well, yeah, that's Packly, guys. So definitely go and check it out. We will be ripping some more next week, so be sure to tune in next week for that. We've also got, I think it's Watch.fun that we've got on next week, which is going to be very cool. They've basically built a platform
I
where
need
you
my
can
first
win
Rolex.
high-end watches. Hell yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think before we wrap up, just a quick Netrunner plug. Obviously, tax season is wrapping up in the US and Canada very soon. And we have been generous enough to decide to offer you guys 60%, a whopping 60% off Netrunner. So use code FKTAX 60 to get 60% off your Netrunner Pro subscription. This will give you 100,000 transactions. You can export all of these transactions and share them with your accountant. We've also got the new AI features built into Netrunner, which you guys are welcome to check out as well. But ultimately, this simplifies all of your Solana taxes and makes your life so much easier. And you can get 60% off right now. So be sure to go do that. And yeah, any final thoughts, Goto, before we wrap for the day?
No, that was awesome. Actually, a sick builder stream mixed with a little bit of degeneracy. I think that's what we love to see, and that's what we'll continue doing. Yeah, dude. No, big week. Obviously, tax season is closing in. I need to get mine done. Canada is at the end of this month here, so I need to get on Netrunner today, actually. But yeah, 60% is huge. Go run it through. Get your taxes done, dude. Yeah, 1099 DAs are out. The IRS already knows what's going on. So yeah, it's time to get in there.
For sure. Just before we wrap, I want to give a quick shout out to Seb. Seb is, I'm going to be linking up with him here in South Africa next week. But obviously, Seb is no longer, he's going to be still like a, what's the word, Goto?
He'll be around.
He'll be around, but he won't be on the show with me anymore. But Goto is going to be joining me as my new co-host, which I'm very, very excited about.
Best, dude. Next best.
Let's go. Not next best, bro. Fucking on par, my friend. Good to have you up here.
That's awesome. Thanks for having me, bro.
No, absolute pleasure, man. And yeah, thanks to everyone who tuned in. We'll see you back here, same time, same place next week. Peace out. See you all very, very soon.